Hello, and welcome to this episode of Hampton Roads Business Live. Today my guest is Bill Dittmar from Executive Lifestyle Magazine and Executive Fusion Marketing. How you doing, Bill?
Hello, Barry. How are you?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. Tell us, I know of Executive Lifestyle Magazine. It's been around a little while, and I know that you have two issues of that, or you've had it on the peninsula and the south side, correct? Can you tell us a little bit about that, the concept, and exactly what it is?
Sure. We started back in 1991, so we're actually over...
It is a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
We're over 1.5 million copies mailed.
Wow.
And basically the concept is targeting and talking to business owners about the concept of work-life balance. Mm-hmm. Our trademark slogan is "Pursue success with no regrets." And that's really what it's about. Often people will come to me and say, this kind of reminds me of like a Reader's Digest for the area. And I'm like, that's exactly what it is. It's got a lot of 3 to 5 minute read stories, right. Kind of the executive summary of the things that make up a proper work-life balance. So you might have an article on nutrition right next to an article on the newest tax laws. And then you'll have a feature that relates to how to make employees more successful with communication near an article about carpet cleaning. So it's quite diverse, but we've done it for a long time. We've had a lot of the same clients for many years, and it's part of our passion of keeping work-life balance top of mind.
Well, I think when I first saw it, my thought was that this is a magazine that's got something for everybody, because it is so diverse. It isn't, it's got a lot of different features in it, subject matter. So where do you see this magazine going here in the future? You said the circulation you quoted was quite huge.
Yeah, basically we every quarter we print 25,000 copies, and we direct mail all those copies.
Wow.
So that's one of the things that makes us different, is we pick a target demographic, and that demographic are business owners like you and I. Pretty much executive in terms of definition is anyone who's in a managerial or an influencing role in a company, and that's really who we target. As you know, being in Hampton Roads for as many years as you have as well.
Long time too.
Our market is full of mostly smaller businesses, 20 or less employees. Right. I believe the number is about 85%. So that's our target market. I mean, we mail to the CEO and the president of the shipyards and the port, but the majority of our market are business owners like you and I. So the magazine is just meant to be a positive piece, and as I mentioned, we direct mail every piece. So it's directly for them. It's written to speak to them.
Right, and that's great for people receiving the magazine, but of course it would be also great for people wanting to put their company in the magazine.
Well, it's partnerships,
yes.
Of course. We don't charge for the magazine, and we direct mail it for free. So certainly we have to have partners in this that feel like this is the target market they want to speak to. And one of the things that makes our format unique is our ability to really educate. Mm-hmm. We're very selective on who we allow in the magazine, both as advertisers and as writers, because my wife and I own the magazine, and for us it's an extension of us.
So you're the editors?
She's the editor, I'm the publisher, and we take it very seriously on the match of the people who are in the magazine has to match what we try to project and be as a business, and vice versa. And so the piece becomes a vehicle for a lot of our writers to really basically educate on their areas of expertise.
Okay.
So let's take an example, Eddie Drescher with the Crankset Group. Mm-hmm. He does very unique business life coaching, and he has several programs. His tagline is, "We help business owners go on vacation and still make money." Mm-hmm. And the other is that he helps them get off the treadmill. Eddie has a column in there where he's able to educate on different techniques that would help you or I make parts of our business more efficient and better, so that in 2 to 3 years we could take off and not worry about that things are still happening at the business, which you're probably already there. I'm still working on it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm still working on it, too. I think a lot of us are still working on it.
Yes.
So maybe you can give me Eddie's name. But, you mentioned earlier, you said that you mentioned a slogan. I want to make sure I get this right. Pursue success with no regrets. Can you kind of give us a little bit more information about that and how that relates to the target audience?
Absolutely. Okay. So we weren't always called Executive Lifestyle Magazine. In the beginning, like most businesses, you go through an evolution and different renditions. So our first 2 years we were called This Month on the Peninsula, and we were only distributed on the Peninsula. And then as we grew, that changed to Peninsula Magazine, and then we had a Southside edition. But it was about 13 years ago when we were really trying to find the right name that defined what we were about. And that's where Executive Lifestyle came in. And I was a little bit reluctant to use the word executive lifestyle because I didn't want people to misconstrue that this was all about, say, money or boats or big cars, because that's really not what we believe. If you want to have a nice car, that's fine, but have it not because you're trying to impress people, have it because you appreciate that engine or whatever it may be. So that's where we really came up with searching what was our core, what are we really about? And that's where that phrase came from is we're all in pursuit of success in our careers, in our lifestyles, in our family relations, etc. But we define success differently. And so we don't try to make a judgment call on what your success is or mine is or what it should be. But the thing we do like to really impress people on is try to pursue it without having regrets of what you didn't do. Achieving success but you have the regret that you didn't spend any time with your family, that you did nothing with your church or your community. So that's really what we're all about.
Trying to build a balance.
It's about trying to.
Yeah.
And we realize, we don't have all the answers. The magazine doesn't have all the answers. I don't think anyone does. But what we did realize is it's kind of like a pendulum. And sometimes we're on the good side of the balance, and sometimes we're way out of control, especially as business owners and business managers, business leaders. So what we really feel the magazine is meant to do is constantly give those reminders of, you know what, it's okay to be out of control, but be working towards bringing it to balance. Right. And keep it top of mind. So that's success with no regrets.
So you deal with an awful lot of business owners. Over the years, certainly. But
certainly.
On a monthly basis or so, you
at least 80 a
wow.
month.
Wow, that's a lot.
Each issue's, depending upon which side of the water, each issue's filled with between 45 and 50 different business people, business leaders, etc. So on average, it's about 80. And we've certainly had this conversation with all of them. And they like to be part of the magazine because, number one, it's positive. Number two, they're in that same quest to try to balance this success in business with a successful life.
And it's great exposure for them, for their business, and gives them a chance to showcase themselves too. So that's good. All right, so now you have another thing called Executive Fusion Marketing and Events.
Yes.
So tell us what that is.
Okay, so that's another evolution of 22 years of being in the publishing field. About 5 years ago, we were looking for a platform to take our magazine and also have a digital version. So we did a lot of searching, and there were a lot of options, but there was one option I found with a company from Europe that was very high-end. They pretty much sell to Express and Dick's and Kenneth Cole and Lexus, and didn't feel like we could afford them, but I found that we had to because they were the best that I saw. So we created our magazine and we put it online as well. And we started to get feedback from our clients how much they enjoyed our platform. The thing I got was, we love your website. And I kept trying to explain to them that it's not really a website, it's more of a platform. Right. But I couldn't convince them of that. And so, go ahead a little bit, after about 10 people asked me, can you do that for us? I decided that we should add that to our portfolio.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So that was really the birth of Executive Fusion Marketing, and the events part was an additional add-on. So it all comes down to, in our eyes, is you build a client base, and then how do you best serve that client base? And in many of the cases, the magazine is a good fit, but then I had clients that needed other things. And I wasn't trying to be a jack of all trades, but by leveraging knowledge in the printing industry, knowledge in the mailing industry, which we had just gained over 20 years of doing it, I was able to start serving them in a few other capacities. So executive fusion marketing is basically a concept of we understand clients have limited budgets, and how do they best spend that money? Well, we help coach them and give them options on how to leverage their smaller or bigger budgets better. I'll give you an example. Our printer that prints the magazine also printed my wife's book. My wife just did her first book, but they're a high-end printer. And so a lot of our clients do internal publications, and annual reports to their own, actually own industry magazines, things like that. So we've helped hook them up so that they can get the same leverage pricing that we get, as opposed to trying to go out and figure out who the best printer is for them.
Okay, well, that's so you're kind of like a middleman that provides, the resources, you have resources that you have good connections with,
Yes.
and can steer them to the proper thing once you've determined what's right for their business.
Once I help them determine what's
That's
right
what
for their business.
Yeah.
Because what I've found is so many business owners like you and I are total experts in our field. But the one place that they're befuddled is marketing. and it befuddles me at times.
And it's a changing environment too.
Exactly.
With technology and just everything moving so fast, it changes drastically, very quickly.
And the old model, or it's still a model for certain companies, but the model of having an agency do all that doesn't really work for smaller companies because we don't have budgets to afford an agency.
Right.
So either we pretty much have a couple options. One, we do nothing at all and hope the business just keeps growing.
That's the one I see the most.
Yeah, that one doesn't work too well.
No.
Okay. The second one is I see a lot of business owners trying to pull together anyone that can tell them anything, and then they just kind of put together an overall mix and match strategy. And sometimes that works for them because sometimes they hit the right things, or they get with people that actually do really truly try to help them. Like some of your services. Video has always been a stalwart platform.
Right.
So to be able to get them onto a stage where they can really tell their story, it's a wonderful way for them to do it. But then there's other questions that come in. All right, where do I put the video? How do I get it out, etc.
Right.
So we don't claim to be, and we're not trying to be, a full-fledged ad agency, but we really become a trusted advisor.
Right.
They already know us from 10, 15, 20 years in the magazine. So we ask a lot of hard questions. Hard questions like, where are you now? Why are your customers buying from you? And, it's interesting, but a lot of business owners don't like to ask their customers that question. And it's a little bit of a fear, even if they're very successful, there's a fear that they're going to hear something they don't want to hear.
Right.
But those questions, to me, are the essence of deciding what you do next.
Right. Well, that's very true. I talk to a lot of business owners, and I find that a lot of times they haven't even thought about it, or much less ask anybody, and they haven't given any thought to why people are not buying from them, or why they are. And I find that's the case when I ask about referrals. I say, do you have a program to get referrals?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
And studies show that most people will give you a referral if you just ask them.
It's as
but
simple as
but
asking.
if they liked your service, but they just don't ask.
Yeah.
And So anyway, who is a good candidate, or do you have a general candidate? Or I'm sure that's a hard question to answer because you've got people from all over the board. But who is a good candidate for your services, would you say?
I think if I can answer that question, then there's probably not a lot of credibility in anything I've said so far. To me, the essence of marketing is understanding your target customer. Who can you serve? And then going and trying to serve them.
Right.
So back into your question, if I can't answer that, I'm in trouble. For me and for our company, it starts with a company that actually truly has a desire to grow. If a company's totally comfortable where they are, they're going to be resistant to most of the things that you offer to them. So one of my qualifying questions when I first meet with someone, I tell them right up front, this is going to be an interview two ways. You're going to interview if I'm qualified to even serve you, and vice versa. I got to interview to see if you qualify for us. And the qualifier is basically, do you really want to grow? You know, where are you in business? Do you have a product or service that I can really buy into, because I can't help you promote it unless I can buy into the integrity of your company. And the same with what we said about who we let in our magazine. And I mean that very seriously. We choose to let people in or choose to not let them in. And I don't mean that in a pious way, but I've just found that we have a certain mission and it has to be the right people. So back to that. So the first is, do they really want to grow? What type of business are they? Do they have, you know, really a product of value and service for their clients? What kind of track record do they have with their clients? I want to hear that they get most of their business from referrals, or that they want to make sure they get most of their business from referrals. And then the last part is they simply have to be able to tell me that they have a budget.
Right.
Because if they don't have a budget, then to me, they're really not serious about, and I don't care what that budget is. I don't care if it's $250 a month or it's $10,000 a month. It's more of the fact that they've committed money to growing their business.
Right. Well, that shows they're serious as well, but I totally agree with what you just said.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about, I know that we discussed this briefly beforehand, but can you talk to me a little bit about the concept of serving versus selling? I know that's very big with you. So.
Absolutely. Well, you know, it also comes from, you know, our belief system. My wife and I are Christians, and we feel like, you know, that's what we're supposed to do here, is we're supposed to serve first. And fortunately, we've been blessed. We wouldn't be in business for 22 years if that concept didn't also get paid back, because we really believe when you look at other people's needs first, then you get taken care of. So in business, that's that tricky thing, because you still have to make enough money to stay in business.
Right.
When you have that attitude too much, you can actually give all your services away,
Right.
and end up not being around to do it. So for me, most of that is listening and asking questions. It's really asking questions of people of where they're really trying to go, why are they in business? And then we get into questions about, you know, as I mentioned earlier, why do people buy from them? You know, what niches or what areas could they be serving that they're not? And from there, we start to look at their current target markets and then what their potential target markets that they're missing. Until you get through those 3 or 4 steps, I try not to ever sell, push, or promote any particular medium. Because to me, marketing is never one thing. You know, I can't stand when I hear that people have taken all their print budget or all their radio budget and put it all into internet now, or put it all into Facebook. Or it's to me, it's very myopic, because there's never been a silver bullet in marketing, and I don't believe there ever will be. It's a mixture of mediums mixed with the right message to the right people that creates what I call a synergy of success. And that's also this concept of fusion marketing. It's creating that fusion or that synergy mix for your company that really only is for your company, because your company's unique in different ways. How do we create that within your budget to go after your target market? And when you do that, you're serving. You're serving the client who's trying to create this marketing, but you're also serving their clients who they're taking care of.
That's
so serving's very, very important.
I agree. And you have one thing that we haven't had time to talk about, so I really don't know anything about it. So maybe you can tell me. But the interactive digital presentations that you do for clients to enhance their sales materials or events.
Yep.
So maybe you can tell us what that is, because we haven't had a chance to talk about that.
That's one of those things that when I first start talking about that, people are just, it blows them away. They have no idea. I was at a Newport News Business Appreciation Golf Tournament last week, and There was a client that I worked with years ago, and we were just talking afterwards, and I was explaining to him in the first couple minutes, and he looked at me, he said, "Bill, I'm hearing you, but I have no idea what you're saying." And I smiled and I said,
I get that a lot.
I said, "Don't worry, Walt, that's normal. Let's restart." So the best way for me to describe that is that digital interactive presentation came from that system or platform where we put our magazine up online.
Uh-huh.
We use a platform, and there's a whole bunch of them out there, Page Flipper, PDF Turn. There's a whole bunch of options out there. The difference that our approach turned into was, think about how we typically build a website. Most of us in business, we typically sit down to build a website and we start taking all the info that we think someone might want to know or might ask about our business, and we list it. And it comes into 14 or 20 or 30 pages. And then we give it to the website developer and they kind of go, okay, and they try to format it in some way that seems logical. All right, and the problem with that is twofold in my eyes. One, it's way too much information. It's information overload. And two, we don't control the message. We don't control at all what the client or the prospective client's seeing. Our approach is not to replace websites, but it's to enhance either websites or sales materials. We'll take 4 or 5 pages that they'll flip, and we think about whoever the target market is, and then we think about their top 3 questions. We answer those 3, and by the 5th page, we bring them to a call to action. So it's basically taking the time to sift out the key things that your prospective client needs or wants to know, and bring them to a decision. And that decision might just be call me.
Right.
Let me give you an example. We created an event for the Salvation Army this year. We ran the first ever Kettle Crush 5K. They hired Executive Fusion Marketing and Events to put on this event. We created the logo, the slogan, all the marketing materials, and we used 3 of these interactive presentations to support the race. The first one, which is at kettlecrush.com, is basically a 5-page site where on page 1 it basically says we're putting on a race April 6th, and it's going to have a 5K, a fun run, and a baseball game. You flip. If you like that, you go to page 2. If you don't like that, if you don't care, you don't want to run, you leave. And that's okay.
Right.
But if you like that, you go to page 2. On page 2, it had the details about why the race was called Kettle Crush, who was being served from it. Page 3 brought you to a page on some of the logistics. And page 4 was basically how do you sign up, how do you volunteer, what's in the swag bag, because all the runners want to know what's in their free goodie bag, and a map. So it's a totally different approach. It wasn't bringing...
It isolates.
Exactly.
It isolates. That's interesting.
The other 2 presentations we did to support the race, so that was the one to get people to sign up, either as a volunteer or a runner. The second one was a sponsorship presentation, and we did the same thing. We had to get sponsors for the race, so we created about a 6-pager that answered the sponsors' questions. What kind of exposure they're going to get, what kind of packages, etc. And by page 6, it was, if you're interested, here's how you...
So you just send the link out.
Absolutely.
Right.
And then the last one was 3 weeks before the race. The race has a program where you show who the sponsors are, and you got to tell runners where to park, how to sign up, fitness training, etc. So we created a 3rd one called the Runner's Toolkit, and it worked just like a digital page flipping magazine.
Well, that's interesting.
So we have 98 sites up right now.
Wow. So it's successful.
Yes.
That's
We've
good.
gone from 10 4 years ago, and now we have 98, and this year, our commitment this year is 50 more. So we'll have 148 by the end of this year.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
So.
Let me ask you this, because I asked this of quite a few people that I interview. You've been in business and obviously successful. If someone is thinking about getting in business, what are the 3 things that come to mind that you would suggest or you would recommend to them? Not your business, type of business
Absolutely.
maybe, I understand that's totally booked up, right? Your type of business.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, okay.
absolutely.
Okay, but what 3 things would you recommend to someone considering getting in business?
Yeah, and in my business, I do get a lot of calls of people saying they want to start a magazine.
Yeah,
And
I get a lot of calls about a video
right?
too, and I go, "Oh, great!
But
just what I need." Another.
Well, I tell them, I said, you know, it depends on where you're trying to go with it. If you're trying to make millions of dollars, I'd suggest you look at a different avenue. If you're looking for a lifestyle, a business that can be part of your lifestyle, let's talk, and then we go from there. So I don't necessarily sway them away. Nobody does what I do. People make magazines, but nobody does it the way I do it. So I tend not to worry much about competition. If I do what I do well, we'll stay in business. And you got to be innovative. But back to your question. So the 3 things I would share with a prospective business, someone who wants to go in business for themselves. First and foremost is find their passion area. One of the greatest things or one of the worst things in the world is to have to work at something that you don't enjoy. And being a business owner, as you know, there's so many tough challenges and it's constantly changing. And so if it's something that you're really passionate about, I believe you're a third of the way there. There's a couple other parts to it, but you're a third of the way there to being able to sustain it over many years.
Yeah, that's the number 1 answer I get. It's the number 1 answer I get from everybody.
Yeah. Otherwise, why go through all that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough.
Stay
it's tough.
working in a secure environment where you have, all the positive things that come from working with a company, and you don't have all the stress of having to deal with all the other stuff.
Right.
The second thing is leave your ego at the door, because you're going to have to do jobs that you may perceive that are jobs you shouldn't be doing as the owner, but quite frankly, you're going to have to. And the other part of the ego, for me, which is probably more important, is you can never feel like you've mastered it. There's always something to learn. And if you have too much of an ego, you're not going to be able to take and listen and learn from others. So the ego part's a big deal. Take the restaurant field, for example. A lot of people open restaurants, and one of their hidden reasons for doing it is they just have this ego to be that restaurateur. And it gets them in trouble. Whereas someone who's passionate about being in the restaurant industry, they've left their ego, they're willing to learn from others. They have a chance. I don't think the other people have a chance, unless they're just independently wealthy and it doesn't matter. Right. So ego, leave the ego at the door is the second one. And then I think the third one, and I think this is very important, is it doesn't matter so much of what your plan is, it's how committed are you to your plan. If we like to think that everything is linear, it starts here and in 5 years we're going to be here, or 3 years or whatever. And we're kind of taught that way. We go to the bank to get money, and they teach us that we want your business plan, and it's all got to make sense, and it's all linear. And then you get into business, as you know, and I know, it's the opposite of linear. It is here, sometimes backwards, etc. So realize that the plan is just, it's important to be committed to the plan. It's going out there, meeting face-to-face with customers, eye-to-eye, belly-to-belly, and finding out what they need that matches what you can do it well, do it consistently, and be flexible with the plan. Don't be so rigid that you think it's going to be A to B to C, because it's not.
Like Zig Ziglar is famous for saying that you can have anything in life that you want if you're willing to help enough other people get what they want.
Absolutely.
And so that goes with serving that you were talking about and all. So those are 3 great points. And I know that determination is one thing I see when I see businesses that have not made it or whatever, and it's because they didn't realize that a lot of times you're failing forward.
Yes.
You got to have some failure. You try something, doesn't work, you get up and go again. You don't just quit, And so it's tougher than people think sometimes. So
There's
I think
one
you brought
other
a lot
thing
of
I'd like to add.
Sure.
So you asked for 3, I'm going to give you 4.
All right.
But the 4th one is very important too. It's hiring outside experts. It's hiring other people to do the things that they do well. And I think that's one of the biggest things that hold many of us smaller businesses back, is we take on too many jobs that, yes, we can do, but it's not the highest and best use of our time. It's me trying to make a video when I don't have the right equipment.
Right.
You know,
Well, I know someone can help you with that.
I'm sure you do. But I think that's so important. You know, we try to do our own taxes. We try to do. You know.
No, I've learned not to do that.
Oh well, we had to learn. We've been in business a long time. But that's what happens.
Yeah.
So many. Same with marketing. This is why there's companies like us filling the needs for
Right.
small businesses. Is because the people that are my clients have realized they're not the expert in marketing.
Right.
So they're going to bring in people that either are or can get to the resources that you need to get to. So that's a big thing. Stop changing your own oil. You don't pull your own teeth, right? You go to a dentist for that. Well, don't do your own marketing. Don't do your own taxes. Don't do your own video.
Oh, there you go. Okay, I like that last one there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if I'm sure you found this quite interesting, and if you would like to know more, you can contact Bill at the information. His contact information is at the bottom of this page and on the back of this video, and you can talk about being in this magazine, the Executive Lifestyle magazine, and also his program, Fusion Marketing.
Thank you.
And it's a pleasure having you here today, and I wish you a great deal of success.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks
All
for
right.
having us.
All right. See you all next time.